Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, and it's always good to see you, Commissioner, and
Thank you.
really appreciate you being here today. It's interesting to hear you talk about college and career readiness and the different efforts underway to enhance those programs, which I fully support. I do want to draw to your attention, however, and you originally being in Western New York, you understand upstate very, very well. And we certainly appreciate your commitment to the entire state and immersing yourself in so many critical issues. I would still say to you, though, that we have a fundamental problem in New York State, and especially in upstate areas, and maybe particularly in rural areas, such as the ones that I represent, where there seems to be a disconnect between what's being taught in the public schools and what the local job market needs are. Mm-hmm. And there's almost been this cultural evolvement over the past several years where now parents believe that in order for their children to succeed, they have to leave New York State. And we've seen our young people leaving New York State, but also I think that that attitude, unfortunately, sometimes is in our school districts where educators, teachers, and administrators almost encourage that. And I teach a lot of participation in government classes, and so I go in and I'll always ask the kids, you know, how many of you plan on staying after you graduate? And it's very alarming to see so many hands that don't go up, and there's just a few that say they want to stay in their communities. And so I think we've got to turn that whole thing around. I have manufacturers in my district that say, we are hungry for welders and manufacturing technicians and other vocational careers and trades careers. We have a tremendous shortage of healthcare professionals across the entire state. And those are all great careers that young people can have. And so how do we get over that disconnect, that lack of communication between the business community locally and getting that connection finally between the school districts and the jobs that are actually existing right now in New York State, and encouraging young people to say, hey, I can stay here with my family. I can have a successful career. I can be here right in my community and make a difference. How do we change that around?
Well, I think there's several factors that are really critical for us. One of the things that I brought up in my testimony when I was here last week was the issue of expansion of career and technical programming to not just a few high schools or a few of our BOCES programs. One of the most successful programs that we have in the state that actually is becoming a national model is the P-TECH program, which takes students and really connects them not only with training in a particular career, but with partners from the business community, the manufacturing community, or whatever, a number of different job opportunities. And those businesses are part of the development of the curriculum, the programming that's done there, and then ultimately opportunities for students to go in and be in those business settings. And whether that's training with welders, whether that's going into a manufacturing center and working with people on the floor, all of that is part of the P-TECH program. We have 26 right now. We have 7 that'll be starting, and that's one of the things that we've requested additional funding for. Now, I also think that it's extremely important that our local high schools connect either with BOCES, beyond P-TECH, but provide career and technical programs there that connect to their own communities. Right now, the city of Buffalo is putting in a number of programs that are partnerships with companies who have those jobs, and they're working with the school district to develop those programs. That's a big issue. When I've talked to superintendents in the state, they are not as aware of what they could use as means of communicating with parents about these opportunities. So part of it is a communication struggle, if you will. Many parents believe that they don't want their child in a vocational program. However, a vocational program is going to give them a job that is, in many cases, a much higher salary than they would receive for some job that they might come out of a four-year college with a degree and get. Because if you, as you're aware and you pointed out, the infrastructure needs are so great that the hourly rates for some of these jobs are very high. So I think it's a matter of focusing our schools and our communities, expanding the P-TECH-like programs to more opportunities in schools that are not as formalized as the P-TECH, but also offer those opportunities, and making sure that across the board we're communicating with the business communities and our school districts to bring in partnerships and to make sure that those work. We're going to be applying for a national grant that's been made available by JP Morgan Chase through the National Opportunities Group in Washington, and hopefully we'll have some opportunities with that, if we receive it, to spread out the word on what we can do across the state to expand those programs and establish those partnerships.
That's great to hear, and it is, however, an urgent issue because every single day we're losing people who move to other states when we want to keep them home so that they can be successful here in New York. And you touch on a very important thing. I visited my P-TECH program, for example, in Chautauqua County. It's extraordinarily impressive, and the students are so jazzed up about it, and the parents are thrilled about it, and you know, everything is really great as far as that program goes, and they're actually developing it even more. But the problem, I think, and I love my BOCES programs, don't get me wrong, over the years, there's been a stigma attached to BOCES. So how do we overcome that? How do we make BOCES really cool and like a great career opportunity and get over that stigma? And I think it's better than it used to be when I was in high school a million years ago, but it's still there. And I talk to people about it, and they'll say, well, I don't want my kids to go to a BOCES program because that's where all the kids go that can't do anything else. So how do we overcome those hurdles? How do we get there in a very short period of time? And I know we've got P-TECH, we've got other initiatives. I'm glad to hear about this grant. But I would say to you, there's some marketing branding thing that we need to do with BOCES to make it really cool and connect kids with jobs in the community. And if we can do that, I think we'd just be light years ahead.
It's one of the agendas that we have in that whole concept of what can we do to expand career and technical programs across the state.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Assemblyman Oaks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, before I begin, we've also been joined by Assemblyman Saladino. Actually, to follow up on Senator Young's comments, I do see in your presentation of the focus on P-TECH and a request to expand that from 11 million to 18 million so that we have a greater amount of money going there. I know you also just talked about the grant program that you're looking at to try to push career and sort of the mid-skills, technical skills types jobs. I know that, for instance, in the Rochester area, they've developed what they call the SAME program, Summer Advanced Manufacturing Enterprise. It's done with local manufacturers, MCC, the county, and actually Monroe County at this point is funding that. I'm in the rural county next door, and individuals are interested there. I guess my question is that money you're asking for in the P-TECH area just going to be focused on the P-TECH schools, specifically those programs, or are there some opportunities for demonstration projects that might be duplicated in other areas, some opportunity for state funding to help? Again, in the summer program, it's a program where you're taking kids who might be in other tracks, but putting them into the advanced manufacturing, give them the experience, 10th and 11th graders, and then giving them course credit for what they're doing, and maybe changing their idea from, oh, I don't want to be an engineer, I want to be something else, that there are jobs available for me in this community, again, if I take that.
Well, Specifically, the issue of career and technical programs, we asked for funding through the Regent's request to expand career and technical programs across the state. And the P-TECH program is, as you pointed out, one way to do that. It's a model that has been used, and we've seen a lot of success. So the opportunity to expand that beyond where we are now and give stable funding is, I think, extremely important. But as I said, our proposal also talks in the P-12 arena for programming that will expand career and technical programs for students in regular high schools and make available the opportunity for certified teachers to get into that program. That's also another issue. You have people in the community that could come in as experts and be teaching in our schools, but we have to review all of the requirements to make sure that that's an available pattern track for them to get in and be employed working with the students. So we haven't any plan at this point to expand a summer program, but all of the work that's done at P-TECH is in fact an extension all year, so we have programs running all summer with those programs.
My hope would just be that, you know, we have such a vast state
Yes.
in many different areas that allowing and focusing on, and maybe we should be budgeting for some additional demonstration ones to help show the way to try to, you know, help as many people as we can with that. I would agree also with the Senator on the rebranding issue, I think, is, and hopefully you said that's on the table for you looking at that. It's interesting just for us locally, one of the things as people are trying to do this, we actually have a career carnival this summer that we're looking at doing for 8th graders to bring them together, bring local manufacturers and businesses, and try to, at that point, expose them before they enter their 8th grade year to say, I'm getting ready for high school. What are the things out there available for me? That's just one idea of local areas to do, but I would hope that as we as a state do that, that we share, if that's a success, maybe we share that, duplicate that, or get ideas from around the state, because we have to make some progress in this area. It's a shame if we have jobs that could be filled, but we don't have people choosing to go in those areas.
I recently had the opportunity to speak to a group of businessmen that were here representing chambers of commerce around the state. And they got to that very issue of we have jobs that can be filled if we could let parents and students know these jobs are something that you can plan for. And when you walk out of high school, you may do some post-secondary work, but you'll be much quicker in a job earning a salary. And a number of them have models that they are doing in their own communities to support high schools and letting students know this is something that is available to them. But I think your point about using models that are successful and getting the word out so that others can use that same plan certainly would help.
Well, you're certainly welcome on August 23rd to come out to Palmyra for the Career Carnival. So.
I know Palmyra well.
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you. Senator Toby Stavisky.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments about vocational education. I spent 2 years teaching at Thomas Edison Vocational and Technical High School in Queens, and I couldn't agree with you more. And also, I appreciate the responsiveness of your office on a number of issues that I've brought to their attention. They've been very forthright and responsive, and you know, I do appreciate it. Let me ask you just a couple of questions. You had this ACELA, I believe it was called, the program that was going to handle licensure statewide, and it just wasn't going to work for your department, which is understandable since you have something like 53 or so professions to license. However, I was the sponsor of the legislation in 2009 increasing the fees, and I took considerable heat for doing that. What has happened and I've asked this question in the past of your predecessors, and I never once got a response. They promised to get back to me, and they did not. What happened to the money, what happened to the increased fee money that was generated by the licensure?
It's still there. What we need is the approval so that we can use that money and develop our own system for e-licensing. So the money is that we are requesting is $4.3 million that is currently in our budget, and I think that is it's reflected on page 23. Right. So that money is there.
It has not been spent?
No.
And it's been reallocated every year, presumably.
So this year, this is a request for this year's funding, but it would be over a 5-year period, but that funding is in the account, and we specifically want to spend it so that we can do the e-licensing. And I want to thank you, to take the opportunity to thank you publicly for that work, because we have almost 1 million people who receive their licensing through through New York. And I think it's a really critical thing for us to be able to make that as customer-friendly as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to put a system in place that allows for that to happen. So your foresight in thinking about making sure that that was available for us is really critical. We tried to work with, of course, the efficiency of a state single system. It isn't going to work for us because of some of the more specifics of this. So we need the approval to move forward on that $4.3 million and then subsequent years.
You mentioned page 23. On page 22, under Enhanced Community Service, you say that in 2015, processing time to issue a license was less than 2 weeks. Toward the top, first or second bullet, the first bullet point.
Yes.
Now, the reason I let your office know ahead of time I was going to be asking this question. A constituent of mine is an immigrant, a nurse from another country, with a green card, married to an American citizen, applied in October of 2013. She did everything she was supposed to do.
Right.
Online, she paid the $390. Let me just condense what happened to her. There were a series of follow-ups, and it took 11 months for that license to be issued because it had to go through a group called CGFNS. They're the ones who verify the credentialing accuracy of the foreign professional schools.
That's right.
It's called Credential Verification Service for New York State. Is there any other place they can use, any other website or organization they can use to verify the credentials?
Well, I'm going to have Doug answer that specific question.
Sure. They don't have to use CGFNS at all. They can just go directly to us. CGFNS is the only verification service in nursing that I'm aware of that does what they do, and they are usually a manner of expediting the license because they have relationships with all the states and with numerous foreign countries, so they allow us to capitalize on a large degree of experience. So typically, going the CGFNS route will make their license application process quicker. The problem with foreign applicants for licensing is twofold. One, it's the verification that the license materials we received are accurate, that they have come from the actual school that they're saying they came from, the school really exists, the grades really exist, the verification process. That's true in all foreign license applications, and CGFNS is very good at doing that and enables us to get to that part of the question answered without a lot of back and forth of international mailing and emailing. The other part of the process is ensuring that the actual courses they took, the substance of those courses, actually equaled the qualitative needs we have in New York, so that their nursing course and clinical practice 1 and 2 equals what we expect them to have here. And that can take some going back and forth between our office and the foreign institution as well to get the information we need to say, did they receive all these things so they're a competent practitioner in New York? I know it's kind of a long question, but there's a lot of complexity into licensing a person that doesn't go to one of the New York registered programs.
Well, as you know, I represent a large immigrant population. You've
I do
been
know.
to my office, so
Yes.
and it's become more so since you visited. That's not what happened. What happened was in June, after, 8 months after the application, she called to see if they had the information from the college, and they had not. She asked if she should call the school in the Philippines, and they informed her not to, and that based upon SED rules, if she does, her application could be canceled. Now, it goes on, and she finally got it a month before the expiration period where she would have to start it all over again. I happen to know the individual, I know her well, and I was very troubled. She didn't come to me for help, but tried to attempt to do this on her own, and it was a disaster. And how can we delay everything with the so-called nursing shortage? We're not credentialing people who are qualified for licensure, because this group, CGFNS, is so slow in responding. My question is this. They are the ones that they had to use. Was this was there an RFP offered to select the college or the organization to do the credentialing?
No, because they don't have to use CGFNS. They can just send our stuff directly to us, and perhaps this individual should have communicated directly for us. If you have, I'd love to hear the specifics so we can do some things about it.
I will get you, our
Yeah.
commissioner, the specifics, because I suspect that this is not an isolated situation, and we certainly have to do everything we can to make it easier for the legitimate people to succeed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
We'd be happy, though, to follow up on it if you get that.
Oh, I'll get you the material.
Thank you.
Mr. Saladino?
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate your time here with us today. I came in a little late because we had session, but one of the questions I had, and perhaps you could shed some light on this. On Long Island, I represent many of the professors in CUNY and the SUNY system. In CUNY specifically, they've gone some 5 years plus without a contract, without raises. Many of us in the room understand that pain. The question I have is, what are we doing to get that resolved from the standpoint of state education? We understand the importance of keeping our top flight educators working with us. We understand they're the best of the best in the country. What are we doing to get that situation resolved?
So just for clarification, you're talking about the contracts that SUNY professors or CUNY professors have. So that doesn't fall under the state ed department, and I know specifically it was mentioned with the Chancellor Milliken, who was here from CUNY, and I'd have to defer to him to respond to you on where he is with his negotiations on budget, on salary rather.
Okay, and the second part was...
We can make sure that he gets that question. I don't know if he's got anybody.
Yeah, I missed him. We had session earlier today. The other question, there was a discussion going on at BOCES earlier, and are we also pushing to keep these entities alive when so many of them are lacking financial oxygen?
Yes, and so in our budget request, there is a specific item that mentions the salaries for BOCES teachers, so that we can raise those salaries and keep the staff members that are there that are so specialized.
We have one particular entity on Long Island, LISA, Long Island High School of Performing Arts. Today, Billy Joel is speaking at a forum to try to keep that facility open.
And is he Is he associated with that school in any way? I know he's had a lot of interest in the school. I was talking to Regent Tillis about it.
Yes, Regent Tillis has been absolutely wonderful on this issue. We couldn't ask for a better person in terms of his motivation and his assistance. But we need more help from the state. And while our educators certainly deserve to be paid a wage in relationship to their education, their experience, and the importance that they bring to our state, making the system more affordable seems to be one of the biggest problems. As we travel all over, and I speak to and listen, more importantly, to those with BOCES on Long Island and other places in the state, home schools have found this too expensive. And as we try to wrestle with a tax cap that we know the residents want, it makes it very, very difficult for those home schools to incur those costs. So one of the issues is cooperation with Albany to get the funding that they need to stay open. Another issue is providing perhaps a line in the budget for extended assistance to those school districts so it is more attractive to send students there. And third, one thing that came up in our meetings is a partnership with the private sector. So they would inject financial resources into the BOCES programs, which really dovetails what we've heard from some of the members of the legislature just earlier. Mm-hmm. Are you looking at these things? Are we getting closer before we lose these important components of our community?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely something that I think really would revitalize a number of different areas within the state, in our schools and our K-12 settings, and then provide more opportunities for our students. So it is a major focus for us, career and technical programs, but some of the specific program, particularly the arts program you're talking about, Regent Tillis is an excellent ambassador for that program particularly. He, in fact, chairs a Regents subgroup on the arts, and we're working to make sure that students can get a special designation as students who have gone through longer periods of intense art instruction. So all those things are on our page, and BOCES, as one of the programs that can support that, is also an important factor in the work that we want to do in the future.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Just to get a little more specifics from you, does that mean you're working on that and we'll see components of this through this budget process, or is this something that has a target further down the road?
Well, we've actually, we have a state aid proposal that actually gets to the issue of the BOCES increase in funding. So we'll make sure that that gets over to you so you know the specifics of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.